say I've had too much. The room surrounds me, I cannot stay in touch. And I know my mind from my body don't tell me it's not so. Oh, say it's so easy, say I'm not worth it. Oh, take me for granted, I'm not perfect. Show me the better side of the world, yeah. Play me, I tell you, I won't be pushed. Don't say I've had too much. The room surround me, I do not give a fuck, yeah. I'm on the edge and I dare you to push me. And I dare you to push me. Watch me dance in the rain. I may be crazy, but this feeling's insane. And I know I'm tripping, I only see black and blue. Oh, taking the next step, stronger than ever. Oh, you broke me up now, but I'm still better. Show me the better side of the world, yeah. Play me, I tell you, I won't be pushed. Don't say I've had too much. The room surround me, I do not give a fuck.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Blind Press YouTube channel. Here I am. I'm wrapped up in it's a blanket sweater thingy. I don't know. I'm wrapped up in a blanket. Hi Fury Kitten, hi Cannibalistic Wizard. We are here to laugh at the insanity that was question period today, because that's gonna be pretty much all I can cover before my voice gives out, because you can already hear it. You can already hear it in my voice, but but before we get into that, it's been very interesting watching Twitter today and the videos that have been coming out. And like Pincalo just showed me one where there's this person who's like screaming about how can it be this close? How can it be this close? What is wrong with this? Like, what has happened to freedom? It's like, dude, this is what freedom looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Sometimes it doesn't go the way you want it to go. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know. I honestly, like, I don't understand how these people, like, they lived through one Trump presidency and nothing happened to them. They weren't put into prison. They weren't killed. They weren't persecuted. They weren't done anything to what they've done to people. A slanket or a snuggie, yeah. That's what I'm wrapped up in. A snuggie. A slanket has sleeves. A snuggie doesn't. I think that's how it works. Anyway, the fact that these people are this insane about a second Trump presidency when they lived through one already, it's crazy to me. I don't understand it. So that's what I did a video about it today. And it's baffling to me. It's just baffling to me. Oh my goodness. So, like I said, we are going to cover question period.
Doors be open.
I am going to move ahead to oral questions, because let me tell you, today was a very special day. It was Trump derangement syndrome of a very different kind, because it was just Donald Trump. What if Donald Trump does this? Do you have a plan for Donald Trump?
Different insecurity.
We're higher.
Oh.
It's obvious. Not less.
Okay. Here we are. Let's switch over to our shared screen. Now, let us begin. This was opposition day, because it was basically Pierre Poilievre versus Justin Trudeau for the whole thing. There were a few other questions from other people, but it was pretty much Poilievre and Trudeau. So this is why I really wanted to go live and go over it with you, even though I'm hurting pretty bad still. So, but let's take a look.
Oral questions. Questions orales. De l'opposition.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, after Prime Minister Harper managed to exempt Canada from the Buy American policies, this Prime Minister caved in.
Oh, I think this is the translator that I like.
And allowed Donald Trump to reimpose those tariffs after Mr. Harper succeeded in putting an end to the softwood lumber tariffs. This Prime Minister caved in again to Donald Trump and saw those tariffs reimposed. Can Canadians have a leader that will defend jobs and bring our companies back home? The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
So yeah, this is what it starts off with. It's right away Donald Trump.
Mr. Speaker, whatever from the Conservative leader. We defended supply.
Whatever
Right
from
Honourable
the
Prime
Conservative leader.
Mr. Speaker, whatever from the Conservative leader. We defended supply
What?
management. We defended our
Really?
aluminum and steel workers. We defended now.
That has to be a mistranslation. Whatever from the Conservative leader. That has to be a mistranslation because that doesn't make sense.
It proved it for people on both sides of the border. But the Conservative Party and this Conservative leader.
No, this is not the guy I like because he is not doing well at all.
They're the ones who lowered investment in defense spending to less than 1% of GDP, and that had consequences for border security. We're the ones who are going to stand up for Canadian security. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The New York Times reported a decade ago that Canada had the richest middle class in the world, and the median incomes for Canadians were higher than in the United States. Oh, how things have changed after 9 years of liberal taxes, red tape, and a tax on our energy sector. Americans make $32,000 more than Canadians, and now a new
that's a big jump. $32,000 on average more made
elected
in
American
the
president
US.
wants to take our jobs for Americans. We understand why Donald Trump wants to take Canadian jobs, but why does this Prime Minister want to help him?
Damn. So there's a creator on YouTube called Mr. Sunshine Baby who says that Polyev endorsed Trump. That does not sound to me like an endorsement of Trump. That sounds to me like now that Trump is in for the presidency, he's like, I want our money back, damn it.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when we successfully renegotiated NAFTA and protected...
I'm sorry, you successfully renegotiated NAFTA when? When exactly was this successful renegotiation of NAFTA? Because isn't NAFTA dead now?
Canadian jobs, protected steel workers and aluminum workers, protected our supply managed sectors and agricultural workers, protected Canadians from one coast to coast to the coast, from coast to coast to workers, protected Canadians from one coast to coast to the coast, from coast to coast to coast.
From coast to coast to coast to Are you okay there, Trudeau? Are you having a stroke?
The leader of the Conservative Party at the time referred to our approach as dumb, Mr. Speaker. Successfully standing up for Canadians is not dumb. But you know what is dumb, Mr. Speaker? Refusing to get your security clearance so you can actually...
Holy shit. Holy shit. Oh, I can't believe. Let's back that up again just so we can hear the idiocy that just came out of his mouth.
Successfully standing up for Canadians is not dumb. But you know what is dumb, Mr. Speaker? Refusing to get your security clearance so you can actually protect members of your caucus, so you can protect Canadians.
Yeah, okay, so Trudeau is literally going, you know what's dumb, Mr. Speaker? Not getting your security clearance. That's dumb. That is legitimately what just came out of our leader's mouth.
Get the briefings necessary.
that yelling in there? That's Kristia and Karina Gould together. They're laughing and yeah!
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, his approach was dumb. It was
Yeah.
dumb to let the Americans
His
reimpose
approach was dumb. I said it before, and I'll say it again. It was
The
dumb.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, his approach was dumb. It was dumb to let the Americans reimpose Buy America rules that Harper had got lifted. It was dumb to let Trump impose softwood lumber tariffs that Biden has now doubled.
Yep.
But you know what is dumb, dumber, and dumbest of all?
Dumb, dumber, and dumbest of all. Oh my god. Polyev, that's cringe. Please don't do that.
Imposing a 61-cent a liter carbon tax that will force our trucking companies, our factories, and our mines to head south of the border into the arms of President Trump. We know why he wants to create American jobs with the Canadian money, but why does this Prime Minister want to help him?
Yeah, this is definitely not an endorsement of Trump. And this is definitely like this is our whole this whole day is Trump, 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 Trump.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we stood up and protected Canadian jobs, Canadian industry, and Canadian trade. We know that the American government cares about creating prosperity in North America, and we're going to do it together. But what the American government...
Oh yes, I love how he's all like, yes, we're going to work together. I'm totally going to work with Donald Trump. Donald Trump does not like you. Donald Trump does not like you one little bit.
Government, in particular this president, also cares about is defense and national security.
Oh.
Well, the leader of the Conservative Party was sitting around the cabinet table when they dropped spending on defense to below 1%, and the Americans won't understand any more than Canadians do why the leader of the opposition refuses to take national security seriously.
You know what I bet? You know what I bet Trump won't understand why we don't have any ammunition.
Colleagues, I know it's Wednesday. It's really important, though, that we have an opportunity to only recognize the person who's speaking at the time so that the Speaker can hear what's going on.
You're so
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, maybe the reason why Conservatives were able to get rid of Buy America and softwood lumber tariffs is because we helped the Americans crush the Taliban and ISIS, whereas this Prime Minister couldn't even shoot down a Chinese weather balloon over northern Canada.
That's funny. He's gonna go after... They couldn't even shoot down a Chinese weather balloon. That's great.
Now he wants to impose a tariff on his own companies, a 61-cent a liter carbon tax, 300% higher than it is right now, where there's a 0% carbon tax south of the border.
Right.
Why does he want to create an avalanche of Canadian businesses, jobs, and paychecks leaving for America?
Because he does not care about this country. He does not care about anything but his bank account and the bank accounts of his friends.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, we saw it once again right now. The Conservative leader constantly talking down the members of the Canadian Armed Forces, talking down and nickel and diming our veterans.
Where did he just talk down and nickel and dime veterans? Where did he do that by saying we helped crush the Taliban? Because we did. So how is that talking down the veterans?
They shuttered 9 veteran services offices, cut thousands of staff from people helping veterans, and made cuts to the Canadian Armed Forces that brought our spending on defense to below 1%. Mr. Speaker, he won't even commit to our timeline to get it up to 2%. And he will not.
Yeah. I can't even make jokes. This is so sad. It is. This is, and it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get way worse.
Get his security clearance so he can get the briefing necessary to keep all Canadians safe.
Blah, blah, blah. He won't get his security clearance. Blah, blah, blah. Fucking, you know what this turned is? Somebody needs to take the, make a Simpsons meme, but instead of dental plan, it's security clearance. Give us the names. Security clearance. Give us the names.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, 10 years ago, the New York Times said that Canada's middle class was the most affluent in the world and that the average income was higher in Canada than in the U.S. Today, the average Canadian worker earns $32,000 less than their American counterpart after tax, because of all the taxes and economic obstacles the Liberals have put in place. Now the Americans want to steal our jobs and bring them to the U.S.
Yeah. He's not wrong. I'm sorry, American people that are watching my show, that's not wrong.
Can there not be an election so that Quebecers can choose who is going to defend their jobs? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canadians remember very clearly what Stephen Harper's approach was, which was to bow down to the Americans. But I thought
we weren't allowed to name people in the House of Commons. Is Stephen Harper exempt from that rule?
Stood up to protect supply management, to renegotiate NAFTA, to protect our aluminum and steel workers. We will always stand up for the Canadian worker, and we're going to invest in national security, which is the thing the Conservatives failed to do. They lowered spending to less than 1% of GDP, and at the same time, the Conservative leader keeps refusing to get his security clearance and to take national security seriously.
Oh, wait. Just because he doesn't have his security clearance means he doesn't take security clearance or national security seriously? Because he doesn't want to be muzzled, so he can still call you out? That means he doesn't take national security seriously? Oh, all right then.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, it seems likely that after the election of President Trump yesterday, a certain number, in fact a definite number of people in the U.S. will seek to leave the U.S. and will seek asylum here in Canada.
Oh my God. Stop it, Francois Blanchette. Stop it. Holy shit. I told you that this was going to be one of the talking points today.
Has the government already made plans to manage the influx of asylum seekers, knowing that people who've been here for 2 weeks...
Yeah.
Now that we're going to start hearing about, it's all going to be political asylum, and it's all going to be politicians.
Yep. The ones that actually did something wrong.
Yeah.
That would actually face criminal charges.
Well, he has to replenish the 19 cabinet ministers that are going against him, 24 cabinet ministers that are rifling against him, right?
Yeah.
Only makes sense.
Police can make a refugee claim as they did through Roxham Road. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, like any responsible government, for months we've been preparing for whatever the outcome was of the U.S. election.
We've been preparing for months for whatever the outcome would have been. Yeah, including taking photos with Kamala Harris last week in preparation for celebrating.
Last night. We will always work to protect our economy, our workers in the forestry industry, our farmers, our aluminum and steel workers, and we're going to be there to protect the integrity of our borders and our immigration system. We've always been able to work well with the Americans, and we'll keep doing that in order to manage the border and the economy responsibly.
Dude, Trump wants you arrested if you step foot in the country. So I don't know how you plan on working with a dude who hates you. But sure, go ahead.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. That seems a bit of a general answer. It's a bit vague, given that there could be millions of people in the U.S. who are going to have to leave. Perhaps
millions and millions. I'm sorry, I had to.
Perhaps even in short order. And if they happen to get through in an irregular fashion and stay for a couple of weeks, then they will be able to stay longer.
Spay the immigrants,
Has the government taken steps to at least ensure that asylum seekers will be distributed according to the population of each province and Quebec? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this government has already shown its ability to work to protect the integrity of both our immigration system and our borders in working together with the Americans to improve the system and also to make sure that Roxham Road was closed down. We've been able to take steps to better distribute refugees across the country. We will continue to work responsibly and reasonably to ensure that our borders
Is that so? Where?
and our immigration system are managed responsibly.
Canadians are worried that Donald Trump's plans will hurt people. They're particularly worried that his
immigration system are managed responsibly.
Canadians are worried that Donald Trump's plans will hurt people.
Canadians are worried that Donald Trump's plans will hurt people. What? Only stupid Canadians? I guess you're one of them, Singh.
They're particularly worried that his plans to impose across-the-board tariffs are going to hurt Canadian jobs. It's going to mean that the cost of everything is going to go up. So will the Prime Minister today stand up today and say that Donald Trump's plans are wrong?
Hear, hear.
Condemn the orange man, Daddy Trudeau. Please condemn the orange man.
Hear, hear. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as we've demonstrated before, we will continue to work constructively with the American administration. We will continue to defend Canadian jobs and interests while we look to create growth and prosperity on both sides of the border. We stood up for Canadian agricultural workers.
Oh my God, he said stood up again.
For Canadian
stood up, stepped up, same goddamn thing.
Steel and aluminum workers, for Canadians from coast to coast to coast, and we did it with a Team Canada approach that brought together
a Team Canada approach.
That sounds kind of gay.
That sounds very gay.
Labor union, businesses, premiers of all different provinces. We will continue to work together to stand up for Canadians and create prosperity for everyone in North America.
That's right. The honourable member for Burnaby South.
Canadians are worried about losing their jobs.
They've already been worried about losing their jobs.
What Donald Trump is proposing to do threatens jobs in Canada. He's threatening to put tariffs on things that will increase the cost of living and also threaten jobs at a time when the cost of living is already too high. Is the Prime Minister ready today to stand up and clearly state that Donald Trump is wrong?
Like I said, Daddy Trudeau condemned Donald Trump. That's what Singh is doing right now.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, when Mr. Trump, during his first term as president, threatened to rip up NAFTA, we were able to work with him not just to defend workers and the Canadian economy, but also to improve the deal to create opportunities for everyone in North America. We will continue to work responsibly to defend the values, interests, and jobs of Canadians, while at the same time knowing that we can do this together to create more prosperity all across North America.
Come together. Oh my God. Trudeau, you are so full of shit. Hey, Michael, how are you doing? Ooh, spiced rum. Nice.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. After Mr. Harper managed to get rid of the tariffs on softwood lumber, this Prime Minister caved in and allowed those tariffs to be reimposed, and now they've been doubled by Mr. Biden. President Trump is threatening to go...
See, he's not endorsing either Democrat or Republican. He's like, the Americans are fucking Canada. Why are you letting them fuck Canada?
Even further, there are already hundreds of workers in the Saguenay who've lost their jobs because this Prime Minister caved in. When will there be an election so Canadians can choose a Prime Minister who will defend our jobs and bring back good paychecks? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, a few years ago, when we were able to defend NAFTA and Canadian jobs and workers,
NAFTA.
we were able to work
keeps
with
saying that like it's a
conservative
thing
premiers, with unions,
like it's a thing that happened.
with workers and industry associations all across the country as Team Canada in order to defend our interests and create growth all across North America. But you know who didn't get involved in that exercise was the Conservative leader who was sulking and said that we had to give in because it wasn't going to work.
He's not
That's
a
not
team
what people
player,
want. People
Mr.
want a government that will
Speaker.
stand up for them. The Right Honourable Leader of the Opposition. He also gave in on Buy America, that policy that was discriminatory against our construction, steel and aluminum firms who could no longer sell their products for construction projects, government or public projects. And that was, we had an exemption for years under Harper, but then it was reimposed under Trump with this Prime Minister's agreement. He signed a so-called free trade deal, but that included Buy America.
Well done. Well done. You caved in on literally everything. Because what? Because Trump said something you didn't like?
As part of the deal. So, can we have an election so that we can fight for our construction workers and other workers? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we will always work with the Americans to create prosperity while at the same time defending our workers here. But speaking of defense, Mr. Speaker, we will not be lectured
We will take no lessons, Mr. Speaker.
by the member opposite. He was a member of Harper's cabinet, and the current Conservative leader was there when they decided to reduce investment in defense to below 1% of GDP, which the Americans absolutely did not want us to do. We're going to increase it to 2%, and they refuse to commit to that. He also refuses to get the security clearance he needs in order to deal with national security files. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Really? That's insane, Fury Kitten. I can't believe they actually did that.
At the time, our per capita GDP was equal to the American. In fact, Canadian workers were earning more than their American counterparts. But after 9 years of taxes and this government's economic obstacles, this radical liberal government's obstacles, we can see that Americans are now earning $34,000 more per person. And
that's still
the
crazy.
GDP has increased by 18% per capita, while it's gone down in Canada.
That is still insane. An 18% GDP increase for the States and a $34,000 earning difference between the two countries.
We know why Mr. Trump wants to create jobs in the U.S. Why does this Prime Minister want to help him do that? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I know Donald Trump well enough to know that he would be very confused, as are Canadians, in trying to understand why the leader of the opposition in these uncertain times with hostility abroad and so on, why does he keep refusing to get the security clearance he needs in order?
Oh my God. Are we... That wasn't even the question. It had nothing to do with national security. And you're like, I know Donald Trump well enough to know that he would be very confused as to why he didn't have a security clearance. Shut up.
In order to get top secret briefings so that he can protect his members and Canadians. The Conservative leader refuses to get security briefings. Donald Trump wouldn't understand that, and Canadians don't either.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Actually,
President Trump must not understand, must actually find kind of humorous, is that while he wants to take jobs from other countries and give them to Americans, he sees here in Canada a Prime Minister that wants to help him do it. Yeah. Let's review the track record.
Yeah? Could you just imagine Trump like, oh my God, that Trudeau, he's so stupid. He's just handing me Canadian money. It's ridiculous. If I was in charge of that country, I wouldn't let me do what I'm doing. You know, like he would totally say that.
He brought in a massive tax on energy that he wants to quadruple, which will drive our trucking, manufacturing, factories, and other businesses abroad. He raised taxes on investment. He's blocked key energy projects, and he's shipped $500 billion down to the United States. Is the Prime Minister auditioning to be the Secretary of Job Creation in the United States?
God damn, dude. Holy shit.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the leader of the opposition
that
has
one.
got his facts straight. In the 9 years since we took office, foreign direct investment has increased by 60% in this country.
Okay, but we're not talking about foreign direct investment. We're talking about jobs going to the States. The party activity coordinator for political action was so proud of it, she posted on X looking for 8 more volunteers. Oh my God. It got memory holed by the media. Of course.
So much so that we are now the #1 per capita for foreign direct investment last year in the G20. Mr. Speaker, we continue to work hand in hand with the United States, with whatever administration, to protect jobs, to grow our economies. But what the American government will not understand is why the Conservative leader continues to refuse to get the security clearance necessary.
No, because that would be like saying that the nominee for the whatever party is running, that's like saying that, say that the Republicans are in power and then the Democrat nominee is like, and then the Republicans are like, the Democratic nominee needs security clearance. Like, that wouldn't make any sense.
To protect Canadians, to protect us all from foreign interference.
Yes, Polyev having his security clearance is going to protect us all from foreign interference.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, 10 years ago, our per capita GDP, that's income per person, was equal to that in the United States. The New York Times said Canadians were richer and our workers were making more money. But since that time, the American economy has grown by 18% per person. And in Canada, it's actually smaller. We've had the worst per capita GDP decline of any G7 country since the year before COVID, all after this Prime Minister hiked taxes on investment, on work, on business, and unleashed a wicked attack on our energy sector. Again, why is it that he keeps trying to create jobs for Americans? Why don't we bring the jobs home?
He's not going to answer
The Right
you.
Honourable Prime Minister.
And Mr. Speaker, we see the Conservative leader cherry-picking his numbers. The reality is the IMF predicts Canada to have stronger economic growth next year than the United States. Full stop. What he is trying to do is continue to talk down our economy. Predicts Canada to have stronger economic growth next year than the United States.
Stronger economic growth next year than the United States. Where? How? When?
Stop. What he is trying to do is continue to talk down our economy and pretend that maybe he's going to be able to deal with an American government that will not understand why he dropped defense spending to below 1% of GDP when he was last around the cabinet table, why he continues to refuse to get the necessary security clearance.
It's not necessary. It's only necessary because you have come out and said there are people that are compromised, which you've compromised the investigation by doing that.
To get the briefings to keep his own caucus safe, much less all Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I can't think of anyone who would more favor quadrupling the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre in Canada than this Prime Minister. Well, maybe there's one person.
Donald Trump?
I think perhaps President Trump wouldn't mind, because of course it will mean our trucking companies, our factories, our mines will all shut down and go south of the border where they will pay zero carbon tax. Mr. Speaker, we have enough to worry about with President Trump potentially imposing tariffs on Canadian companies. Why would our government impose tariffs on ourselves?
That's a valid question. Why do we want an extra tax on our own stuff when Rwanda had projected better growth figures than the US under Biden-Harris? The IMF figures was based on a Harris government, not a. Further numbers for growth are now meaningless. What the hell did my watch just do?
48 widget underscore mindfulness 0 48 with IC underscore HRV 11
Huh.
53%.
Apparently my watch just did something weird.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Once again, Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition demonstrates that he has no understanding that the only way to build a stronger economy for the future is also to protect the environment at the same time.
Oh my God. Yes, protect the environment at the same time. That will build a stronger economy.
Putting more money back in the pockets of
Printing
Canadians.
money,
The
that
Canada
will help
Carbon
protect the
Rebate puts
economy.
more money back in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians, according to the Parliamentary Budget Officer, according to top economists and environmentalists across the country. We're putting more money in people's pockets that the Leader of the Opposition wants to take away at a time where investments in jobs, in growth, in the future is more important than ever before.
Oh,
here's the Quebecois
Mr.
guy.
Speaker, even the opposition leader is concerned about President Trump's economic policies. There must be a problem here. A problem with trade, a problem with supply management, with aluminum, with softwood lumber. Coming back to supply management, isn't it time to urgently protect supply management?
Yes.
And pass C-282? And he should call on his senators to pass that bill. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I've been saying from the outset, we agree with that bill. And we are trying to make sure it passes through the Senate. We need to show how firm we are about supply management, about our support for it. We've always stood up for it. We're the government that promised to never give up anything in any future trade deals when it comes to supply management. and we're going to keep our word. I'm glad that the Bloc is supporting us in that endeavor, and we will continue to protect our supply-managed farmers. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly.
That's not an answer.
The comparison between the government's will and firmness and its actual results is pretty obvious. A lot of economists say that the economic policies of Republicans will cause inflation. Isn't it time to urgently protect the purchasing power of those aged 65 to 74 by restoring equity within the OAS for everyone, as the Bloc is demanding? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we all know how global inflation has been difficult for Canadians, particularly for seniors.
Stop with the global inflation
as a government, we worked so hard to bring inflation down in Canada faster than in the U.S. and in other parts of the world. And that's also why, interest rates have gone down quicker in Quebec than in other parts of the world.
How does that work?
We will continue to be a government that manages public finances responsibly in order to make sure that people can continue to enjoy lower interest rates. And we will continue to invest in programs like dental care and pharmacare that will help seniors too. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Having capitulated and allowed President Trump to reimpose the softwood lumber tariffs that Stephen Harper had taken off, and now Biden having doubled those tariffs, our softwood industry hemorrhaging jobs. One way to boost the industry is to build some homes. It turns out I've got a common sense plan to cut the wasteful bureaucracy that has built zero homes and use the savings to axe the sales tax and boost home building by 30,000 new homes per year. Will the Prime Minister accept my common sense plan?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the problem with the Leader of the Opposition's so-called plan is that it actually cuts billions of dollars of investments from municipalities across the country
that aren't using the money for building homes. So why should they get it?
We're counting on it to build hundreds and even thousands of units of housing the Canadians so desperately need. His plan is, once again, cuts and austerity, fights with municipalities, fights with the provinces, not building the homes that matter for Canadians. Once again, he's completely out to lunch, demonstrating an unwillingness to help Canadians, except a willingness to help himself with political attacks.
Political attacks? Really? That's what... Okay. Pot, meat, kettle, how are you doing today?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years, he's doubled housing costs, and Canada has the fewest homes per capita of any country in the G7. Maybe it's because his housing minister said of these $8 billion of bureaucracies, quote, the Housing Accelerator Fund doesn't go towards the cost of building houses. It actually doesn't lead to the construction of specific homes. The Housing Accelerator doesn't actually fund directly building homes. And it's built zero homes. Zero homes built with this bureaucracy. So why not follow my common sense plan to axe the sales tax and build the homes?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, 18 Conservative caucus members stood up and asked for housing investments in their municipalities across the country from this Housing Accelerator Fund that he is promising to cut. And Mr. Speaker, I'm going to channel my old job as a school teacher. The Leader of the Opposition actually spent a lot of time and effort.
Is he really gonna be that condescending?
The Leader of the Opposition actually spent a lot of time and effort rooting out which 18 members had asked for this money for their municipalities for housing. If he spent half as much time rooting out foreign interference as he did rooting out people who are asking for more housing, we might be better off as a country.
Wow. But Polyev is the one doing the political attacking, right? It's not you at all. It's just Polyev.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
No, these MPs were just trying to solve the case of unsolved mysteries.
Yes.
Where are all these homes? Listen, could you point out any one of them? And so they wrote the minister 18 letters, and he got 18 letters, and he couldn't respond with even one home that his $8 billion bureaucracy has built.
Oh, look, so he just answered the question. No, actually, I wasn't, quote, rooting out my MPs. I was actually trying to find out what they were doing, and they wrote 18 letters to the Minister for Housing to find out how many houses it built. Cuts to wasteful spending, yep. So when does the voting for PM begin? Not soon enough, right? That bullshit over and over again. Yeah, I know, right? This is getting crazy. This is getting insane.
All these 18 MPs tried to help the hopeless minister. So let me try again with a real plan to build the homes. Axe the tax.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the MP for St. Albert Edmonton asked, the requested federal funding is critical to making this needed development a reality, a development that will help address the significant shortage of affordable housing options in the...
Yeah, he's saying if this exists, this would be very helpful in building homes. Where are the homes that you've built?
Community. At the same time, the mayor of Butternut Valley in New Brunswick pointed out that this is a program we need, and even the local MP had said this funding will provide much needed housing in this.
No, we're not. Not far from. No, we're Our election is supposed to be October 2025, but the opposition is pushing for an election sooner than that.
I don't like to interrupt the Prime Minister. He does have time left on his clock, but it was difficult for the Chair to decipher what was being said. I'm going to ask the Honourable Prime Minister to take it for the last 15 seconds, please, and so that I can hear what is happening or what the question is being answered. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the MP for Fundy Royal wrote, this half funding will provide much needed housing in this area. So much so that when the Leader of the Opposition announced he would cancel it, the Mayor of Butternut Valley in that riding, Alan Brown, responded very strongly that this money will help build homes. And why is the Conservative leader blocking it?
That's not what it said. It said where are the
Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, he's got lots of politicians that love to receive other people's money, but he doesn't have any homes to show for it. And listen, he's too afraid to have a carbon tax election. Let's have a compromise here. Why don't we have a housing tax?
He's got his dad voice on. Okay, children. Okay. You don't want to do this? Fine. Let's have a compromise.
The MPP Liberals will campaign on giving the billions more to bureaucracies, and we'll campaign on a plan to axe the tax and build the homes. What do you say? Housing tax?
So they're pushing for an election either on the carbon tax that Trudeau has put on, or the Leader of the Opposition wants to get rid of the sales tax, the federal sales tax on new homes built under $1 million.
Order.
Shut up, children.
Order. Order.
Shut up, children.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the only so-called plan the Leader of the Opposition put forward is a plan for cuts and austerity, a plan to cut billions of dollars of investments that are needed by municipalities to unlock the building of thousands of homes. Why doesn't he want to see thousands of homes built across the country? Because he'd rather instrumentalize for his own political gain the sufferings and the challenges facing by Canadians rather than to solve the challenges. Just like he refuses to solve the challenge of foreign interference in his own caucus by refusing to get the necessary security briefings and security clearance that'll keep his caucus and Canadians safe.
Give us the names, dude. Just the names.
You're losing your caucus. The honourable member from Burnaby South.
The Liberals continue to break their promise to eliminate the marriage after 60 pension clause. They label women as gold diggers and push veterans and their families into poverty.
Shame.
This government and gold diggers and push veterans and their families into poverty.
Shame.
This government announced $150 million for veterans 5 years ago, but hasn't spent a single penny.
Singh, you do not care about veterans. Would you stop pretending like you do?
Veterans and their families are owed a good life. Will the Prime Minister eliminate this sexist, archaic pension clause, or does he still believe veterans are asking for too much?
The Right
He
Honourable
is
Prime
neither
Minister.
right nor
Speaker, we've
honourable.
invested over $11 billion in supports for veterans over the past years after the Conservative government demonstrated that they were nickel-and-diming veterans for photo ops, shuttering 9 veteran service centers, firing thousands of people working to directly support veterans. We've been there for our veterans. We will continue to invest in supports for them. We will continue to protect them from the Conservative cuts. We will be there to honour and recognise their service, not just this week on Veterans Week,
You're
but
giving us
every
everything,
single
all
week
that love, all
throughout the
that
year.
joy can bring. Yes, you swear.
The honourable member from Nunavut.
More and more Indigenous people are still dying at the hands of law enforcement. Despite urgent calls to
are the
save
law
lives, the
enforcement
Liberals
people
have done
just
nothing.
picking out
I agree
Indigenous
with the
people and
Inuit
killing
family
them,
in St. Louis, Nunavik, after their son Joshua was killed. We need justice for twins Joshua and Garnet Papigatuk. We need more de-escalation tactics and Indigenous-led crisis response teams. When will this government listen to the urgent demands from Indigenous peoples so they can live in safe communities?
Need to be treated differently when they're dealing with law enforcement?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Kuyanamik, for my colleague's question, we know how
difficult
situations there are in far too many Indigenous communities. Question.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Kuyanamik, for my...
He learned Inuit. He took the time to learn. Okay.
Colleague's question. We know how difficult situations there are in far too many Indigenous communities, including Inuit communities across Nunavut, which is why we've tripled investments into
I love how
Indigenous
he even tries to put an Inuit accent when he says that too.
Since 2015, with $32 billion in investments expected in 2024-2025 alone. We know there is much more to do, including even stronger partnerships on Indigenous policing, on community security, community safety, on housing, on supports for young people. There is much more to do. We will continue to work hand in hand, work with local governments and Indigenous governments to get it done.
The Honourable Member for Marcorel-Fortin. Mr. Speaker.
Let's skip the French a little bit more.
We're talking about some 8,000 of those projects. Count on and allowed Trump. I propose the idea of removing the GST. Conservative Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
There we go. We're going to go over here.
The Prime Minister capitulated and allowed Trump to reimpose tariffs. And there are 3 sawmills in Saguenay that had to shut down. One way of stimulating the demand for Canadian lumber is by building homes.
Yeah.
But the Prime Minister is fighting to build bureaucracy. And so they're not building houses at all. I propose the idea of removing the GST on new homes, which would allow for the building of 30,000 some homes. Would he call an election to make sure that the GST can be removed from new homes?
No.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
He should just say
Mr.
no.
Speaker, Quebecers see very clearly what this Conservative Party is trying to do. It is trying to cut everywhere and ensure an austerity plan. The Conservative leader would cut $900 million of joint investment with Quebec to create some 8,000 affordable homes.
If it's
That
joint
is what he wants
investment,
to do.
he can
He just
only
wants
cut the federal
cuts for
portion
Quebecers.
of it.
He is throwing an agreement into the garbage. He's petty politicking, and that's not what Quebecers need. They need investments and they need homes, and that's what he wants to cut. Before continuing with the Leader of the Opposition, I would just like to remind all members, and I've seen this on both sides, please do not rise too much before the Speaker recognizes you.
I'm seeing this on
Recognizes you
both
because
sides. No,
it
you're
distracts me
not.
somewhat. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It would be bad enough for the Prime Minister to want to give our energy jobs to the Americans who've doubled their production over the last couple of decades, but he wants to actually give it over to the Venezuelan, Iranian, and Russian dictatorships by cutting Canadian energy production by 35%.
Writing leasing
Mr. Speaker,
taxes, yep.
the Americans reduced their emissions by more than, while ours went up, by increasing natural gas production and using it to replace dirty coal. We could do exactly the same. Why
Yes,
won't
we
he
could.
follow a common sense plan to produce more clean, green Canadian energy rather than giving our jobs to dirty
he has
dictators?
an environment plan. Isn't that
The Right Honourable Prime
amazing?
Minister.
Little performance was designed to distract from is the fact that under the Conservative government of Mr. Harper and that current leader, they couldn't get anything built. We built the Trans Mountain Pipeline extension. We built
That you
TMX.
fought
We
against
understand that
building
getting
for 5
good prices
years.
for our oil was important, not just for Alberta, but for the entire Canadian economy. And we are moving forward to make sure that even as the oil companies are making record profits, we're putting a cap on emissions, not on production, not on profits, but on emissions, because Canadians care.
Yeah, putting a cap on emissions. That'll
Yes, the
do
honourable
it.
member from Lakelands, please not take the floor unless he's recognised by the chair. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Common sense Conservatives approved and saw the completion of 4 pipelines with no tax dollars to subsidize them.
Yeah.
Because we believe businesses should make money rather than take money. By contrast, this Prime Minister has pushed $100 billion of energy investment out of Canada, most of it into the United States. And once again, I can imagine that the champagne will be popping over at the Trump Tower when they find out how much more Canadian money this Prime Minister wants to send south. Why does he want to kill Canadian jobs? Why don't we bring home production and paychecks for our people?
Yeah, this does not sound like an endorsement of Donald Trump at all.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The Leader of the Opposition just admitted that he wouldn't have put a penny into TMX. He wouldn't
That's
have
not
made
what he
it happen.
said.
This is something that matters to Alberta.
That's
It
not what
matters
he
to the
said.
oil workers there.
That's not what he said at all.
Order. Order. The Right Honourable Prime Minister from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader just
He did
admitted
not
he
just
would
admit
not
that.
have invested in TMX.
He just
would
said
not
we
have
didn't
gotten
have to
it
use
built.
tax
But
dollars
Mr.
to
Speaker, on this
invest
side of
in
the
it.
aisle, we will stand up for Alberta. We will stand up for oil and gas workers across the country because we know that getting overseas
You know
markets
your
for
dad is
oil
the
and gas
reason why Alberta hates the name Trudeau, right? With the National Energy Program.
Colleagues, it should be possible for the Honourable Member from Lakelands, please.
Yeah. The honourable member from Lakelands, please. I beg of you.
Mr. Speaker, once again we see that the Conservative leader will not stand up for workers across the country. He won't stand up for Albertan oil workers. We got the TMX pipeline built because we know that getting a better
I'm
price...
sorry, you had 5 years of fighting and resisting getting the TMX mountain
by being able
done.
to ship it across the Pacific is a way of creating jobs and prosperity that allow us to build strong jobs and economy for the future. The Conservative leader does not understand that we need to invest in workers to build a stronger future, not offer them cuts.
That was hilarious.
It was hilarious.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, when we were in government, we didn't have to offer $30 billion bailouts for pipelines because they made money.
Yeah.
That's how business works. He wants to create a bailout economy. And let's clarify how this works. $30 billion, $7 billion of which went to a Texas oil company, which took our tax dollars down to Texas to build American pipelines. Mr. Speaker, all our exes are in Texas. Why don't we bring home those jobs for Canada?
He's pissed. Polyev is pissed.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
You just heard it perfectly clearly.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we just heard it very clearly from the leader of the Conservative Party. He would not have built the TMX pipeline.
That is
Mr. Speaker,
not
we
what
know
he
how
said.
important it is to make sure we get a
Holy
good price
shit.
for our oil so we can invest in the kinds of solutions and technologies that are going to continue to create prosperity and opportunity for energy workers, not just in Alberta, but right across the country. We will continue to be there to invest in a stronger future by understanding that renewables are an important part of the future, but we need to be able to pay for them. The Conservative leader does not understand how to build a strong future or how to build a strong economy.
That's it.
Then I have
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the votes have not even finished being counting in the United States, and there's already a debate between the Conservative leader and the Prime Minister to see which one will support the oil patch more strongly. That is nonsense.
Come on.
So are they completely turning their back on
Eve?
any consideration of climate change, and that the green economy is being abandoned to give place to the oil patch? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I can see the irony here when I hear that coming from someone who approved oil drilling in Anticosti. He knows very well that we need to build a greener economy and protect the environment at the same time. And it's possible. That's why we have capped greenhouse gas emissions in the oil industry across the country. We have also put a price on pollution to put more money in the pockets of Canadians.
Cap and put a price on pollution. So punish all the delivery vehicles
while creating economic growth, which is a first for Canada. We're going to create jobs and protect the environment. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. I might tell the Prime Minister to check his facts because I never approved any such drilling in Anticosti. Now, that being said, let's talk about security because tomorrow I am going to become the other leader in the House who has seen the report that will name the MPs who have been compromised by foreign interference. So there is still one left who doesn't want to clean up his caucus. So will the Prime Minister, will he ensure that he is going to put 2% into defense spending, the Right Honourable Prime Minister? It is clear that I don't always agree with the leader of the Bloc Québécois, but I must recognize and thank him for having gotten his security clearance so he can get his security briefings like all other party leaders, except for the Conservative leader.
You did a very good thing.
Who does have a responsibility to protect our democracy. The Conservative leader, for unexplainable reasons, I don't know what he has to hide, he refuses to get his security clearance. He refuses to get secret security briefings that would allow him to protect his party and thus democracy. We don't know why, but he refuses to take this seriously, Mr. Speaker. the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Given that we've just seen an American election, I think I can quote another American president who could aptly describe the Prime Minister's economic policy. If it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. If it stops moving, subsidize it. Instead of doing none of the above, which would allow our entrepreneurs to actually build things on their own without sticking taxpayers with the bill. He wants to know our common sense plan? We will repeal the unconstitutional C-69. We will scrap the cap. We will axe the tax. Why won't he call a carbon tax election so that we can bring home these jobs?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, when we stood up for Canadian jobs, Canadian oil producers, Canadian oil, steel,
You can't even
and aluminum
speak
workers,
right now.
The Conservative Party called that dumb. Mr. Speaker, we will always stand up and defend Canadian jobs, as we have in the past, as we create more opportunities for Canadians right across the country. And as we protect our national security. What the Americans will not understand is why the Leader of the Opposition, who desperately wants to become Prime Minister, refuses to get the necessary security clearances so he can keep his party safe.
Like he throws in the word desperately, like Polyev has no chance when he's like, he's desperate to be Prime Minister. He'll do everything and anything.
Of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I've already explained how $500 billion of our dollars have left the country since this Prime Minister took office. Canadian investment dollars paying American workers while our people can't afford food and homes. But don't take my word on how uninvestable the country has become. Take the word of carbon tax Carney. The Prime Minister's lead economic advisor has just moved his $100 billion company to New York City.
To the States.
If the Prime Minister's own top economic advisor doesn't have faith in his economic plan, then why should anyone else?
There you go.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, what the Leader of the Conservative Party hasn't explained is why he's treating national security like a dodgeball game. He ducks allegations of foreign interference in his own caucus.
But
He
somehow I was
dives,
hoping he
away
wasn't
from,
going to say it.
dies as he turns a blind eye towards investments in our communities by foreign interferers, and he dodges the tools necessary to keep his party safe. Why won't he get the briefing, get the clearance, protect Canadians?
I love how he's trying to do like the same rhyming and slogans that he thinks the Conservatives are doing, and it's just not working for him. It's so pathetic.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister likes to spread crackpot conspiracy theories instead of defending his economic record. But why wouldn't he? When you've doubled housing costs, you distract. When you've doubled food bank use, you divide.
Yeah.
When you've doubled gun crime, you use fear to turn people's attention away. And when you've doubled the national debt to a point that even your top economic advisor is fleeing the economic carnage you have created, you do anything possible to change the subject. If he can't defend his economic record, why not have a carbon tax election so that I can take it?
There you go.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
He can't even defend the members of his own caucus because he refuses to get the necessary
Holy
security clearance.
shit, he's just stuck on this clearance thing. He is just stuck on this clearance. He will not let it go. He's like a dog with that rope toy that's broken and frayed and like really needs to be thrown away, but he won't let go.
And he likes to talk about crackpot conspiracy theories. It's not a crackpot conspiracy theory when his own members of the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians signed a report that was released publicly that talks about the fact that the Indian government interfered in the past Conservative leadership campaigns. Or is that perhaps why he refuses to get the security clearance necessary, because he doesn't think he'd pass the security clearance because of Indian interference in his own...
Holy shit! You can't say that.
What did they say? What did they say? You gotta go back.
You can't fucking say that, dude.
Talks about the fact that the Indian government interfered in the past Conservative leadership campaigns. Or is that perhaps why he refuses to get the security clearance necessary, because he doesn't think he'd pass the security clearance because of Indian interference in his own...
Holy shit. That is insane. Just because the toy is old and battered doesn't mean it needs to be thrown away. Justin hates the fact that Pierre will not take the bait. He does. I can't believe he just said that.
What do you have next? Huh? There's a thought. The honourable member from Kitchener-Conestoga.
Mr. Speaker, Canadian veterans have bravely stood on the front lines, often at significant personal sacrifice, to protect the values that Canadians hold dear. They deserve our unwavering and ongoing support. Veterans still recall the severe cuts made by the previous Conservative government, which dismantled the very institutions meant to support them. Can the Prime Minister inform this House about the measures our government has implemented to enhance and expand the important supports our Canadian veterans deserve?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for Kitchener-Conestoga for his hard work and his leadership. Conservatives didn't think twice when they cut vital supports for veterans and their loved ones. They even had the nerve to tell veterans, and still are saying it, to tell veterans that closing and cutting...
Soft-handed job question.
Over 1,000 workers wouldn't impact veterans' abilities to get support, which of course it did. While Conservatives slashed supports for our veterans, this Liberal government has invested more than $11 billion in supports for veterans and their families. That is the right thing to do.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The cost, crime, or corruption. We know that Parliament has been paralyzed for weeks now because he refuses to hand over evidence to the police in the $400 million Liberal slush fund scandal. Now we find out what he might be hiding. It turns out that his radical environment minister has a stake in one of the companies that got $10 million of those dollars. This is a scam. And by the way, the official that handed over the money had interest in the very same company. Is the Prime Minister covering this up because he's worried about the questions the police might have for his minister?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, despite the efforts of the Conservative leader to partisanize and polarize everything, we still live in a country where the police are independent, the judiciary is independent, and the RCMP has clearly stated that they don't need and don't particularly want the documents that the Leader of the Opposition is freezing Parliament over. We will continue to stand up.
Did they say they don't want it? Or did they say that they would get it when they need it?
And we will, while we're at it, continue to encourage the Leader of the Opposition to get the necessary security clearance to see the threats to Canadians and protect his own caucus.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Journal de Montréal revealed this morning that Cycle Capital Business received $10 million from the Green Fund that is at the heart of the major scandal, which involves $400 million. Who owns this company? Who has an interest in this company? The Minister of the Environment, Mr. Speaker.
Oh dear.
Now, is that why the Prime Minister is paralyzing Parliament in order to deprive the RCMP of evidence regarding this scandal? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers and all Canadians understand how important it is to have independent police forces who have nothing to do with politics, despite the efforts of the Conservative leader to...
Despite the efforts of the Conservative leader. I'm sorry, didn't you and Brenda Lucky have some sort of thing going on?
polarize the work done by the RCMP and other police forces. We are going to respect their work and allow them to do their job. As we expect the Conservative leader to take his responsibilities seriously with regard to national security by getting his security clearance to get his security briefings and to protect his own MPs from foreign interference. I would invite the honourable members to not take the floor unless
Stop
they've been
talking,
recognized by the
bitches.
Speaker. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister was caught paying $9 million tax dollars to buy a luxury, super exclusive condo on Billionaires Row for his media pal and diplomat in New York. Tom Clark, the diplomat in question, denied he had any involvement in it. Well, now we have documents showing that he said, and I quote, his housing required immediate replacement. It wasn't suitable for hosting or for living. Wow. Wait till he finds out about the 1,400 homeless encampments in Ontario, Mr. Speaker. Why, while Canadians live through housing hell, must they spend their tax dollars on a $9 million palace in the sky?
There you go. That's a very valid question.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, at the same time as the leader of the opposition is playing silly games around partisanship and choosing to attack our hardworking diplomats and use people in homeless encampments as
silly
games, offering nothing but cuts of billions of dollars worth of investments. He is refusing to take seriously allegations made by the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians that his very leadership, the leadership in which that diplomat, as a former journalist, moderated, was interfered with.
This is all he's been talking about the entire day.
Order. 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 Colleagues.
This is when the speaker should be allowed to go, shut the fuck up.
The Honourable Member from Guelph.
Mr. Speaker, foreign interference poses a real threat to democracies around the world. Bad actors like Russia, China, and India use shady tactics to sow division and to further their
Is
own
this guy
goals
gonna
in
fall
countries
down and
like
die
Canada.
right where he
Yet
stands?
there's a deafening silence coming from the leader of the opposition. Can the Prime Minister please explain to Canadians what is at stake and why the Conservative leader needs to take this seriously?
Colleagues, it is important so that people who do not speak the other official language have the opportunity to hear the question.
If you're in Parliament,
So
you
please
better
do
speak
not
both official
talk when you are not
languages,
recognized by the
Fergus.
Speaker. It is very difficult, out of respect to our colleagues who speak another official language. Please don't do that. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for Guelph for his important question. The Conservative leader doesn't do what's best for Canadians. He does what's best for his algorithm. He turns a blind eye to foreign interference in his own party.
Is he an
because that
android
boosts
now?
his YouTube following. Now he's dodging his security
Dude,
clearance
his YouTube
because he's
following
worried that
is
won't
going to
play
be
well
why he
in his
wins
echo
the fucking
chamber.
election.
Mr. Speaker, the leader of the Conservative Party needs to take care and focus on Canadians instead of worrying about his own troll farm.
His own troll farm? His own troll farm? Wow. Okay. Okay, Justin.
Told you. I called. Didn't I say that a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, something like you did.
Yeah, I said, he's jealous of Poilievre's numbers because Trudeau's YouTube channel has like 1,000 subscribers, and Poilievre's over 1 million.
Yeah.
A Liberal MP who's been trying to do YouTube never gets more than 5 viewers.
Oh, Nate Erskine Smith? Yeah.
The honourable member from Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, young Canadians are facing a serious crisis. Youth unemployment is now double the national average, and job security and workplace benefits are becoming a thing of the past. The cost of food is soaring, rent is skyrocketing, and the cost of living is crushing. Young people don't have a fair shot under the Liberals, and the Conservatives' only answer is to cut services. Mr. Speaker, young Canadians need hope and opportunity. Why is this Prime Minister letting them down?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I should think that young Canadians are preoccupied that the NDP seems to be letting them down by backing off on their commitment to put a price on pollution that also puts more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians with the Canada carbon rebate. I should be concerned that the NDP is
Yeah, let's do that.
continuing to allow the House debate to freeze and not pass our capital gains measures that are putting more money in the pockets of young people.
How are the capital gains measures putting money in the pockets of young people? How?
Asking those who are making over $250,000 a year in capital gains to make a smaller profit on those gains. We're there for young people.
Yeah, because screw the middle class person who needs to sell their house, right? Or their cottage or whatever just to pass on something to their family.
We hope the NDP would be there too.
The honourable member from Saanich Gulf Islands.
Mr. Speaker, at the time that the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change was signed, there was no left-right, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative divide on doing what science required. Maggie Thatcher and Brian Mulroney were front of the pack to get the treaty. But now that Donald Trump is re-entering the White House, we know that one of his first acts was to withdraw from the Paris Agreement.
Trump bad. Trump bad.
Can the Prime Minister update us? What is the Government of Canada and like-minded countries doing to protect the multilateral international system, as flawed as it may be, to deliver on climate action?
As flawed as it may be to deliver on climate action. Wow.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
What has become increasingly clear to everyone around the world, whether it's citizens or investors or governments of all political stripes, is you cannot have a plan to grow the economy and support your citizens if you don't at the same time have a plan to reduce emissions and fight climate change. That's how we create the prosperity, the jobs, the opportunities for future generations. We will continue to work hand in hand with partners from around the world as we protect biodiversity, as we create jobs, as we lower emissions, as we draw on investment, as we create the solutions on energy and technology that are going to bring Canadians forward.
I wish to draw to the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of our former colleague and...
So that... yeah. That was the end of question period. That was pathetic. The TDS was insanely strong today. Donald Trump is going to ruin Canada. We've had a plan forever about Donald Trump ruining Canada. It's just, it's absolutely stupid. Absolutely stupid. But I need to go make myself some more Neocitrin. My throat is killing me and I'm starting to get a headache. So I think I'm going to end it here. As like I said, I wasn't going to be able to do much more than question period, but I wanted to cover it because it was crazy. I was watching it today and I was like, I have to cover this. So I will be back. Hopefully, I'll be back tomorrow. I don't think I'll be doing Glass-Eyed Gaming tonight. Maybe, but I don't know. We'll see. But thank you for watching. I will see you guys later on. Have a wonderful night, and I'll see you later. Bye, everyone.